When Senator Tammy Duckworth was elected in 2016, I was actually pretty excited because she really positioned herself as a true progressive, as a Bernie-crat. But now, to say that I'm perplexed by her actions would be an understatement because I have no idea what has happened to Tammy Duckworth. I don't know what she's doing. So as you all know, Donald Trump recently met with Kim Jong-un, world news, huge historic event, and he agreed to stop doing war games, and he also hinted at the prospect of drawing down troops in South Korea, bringing them home. Well, what does Tammy Duckworth, along with one of her colleagues, Chris Murphy, decide to do in response to Trump trying to achieve peace? They attacked Donald Trump from the right. So according to Ali Rogan of ABC News, she reports the new legislation from Senators Chris Murphy and Tammy Duckworth would prevent Trump from withdrawing troops from South Korea unless the Secretary of Defense says it's in the interest of national security and that it would not undermine the security of allies in the region. U.S. troops are not bargaining chips to be offered up in an offhanded manner, Duckworth said in a statement. During his summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, Trump announced the United States would be ending large-scale annual military exercises conducted with South Korea, but insisted that the status of the 28,500 American soldiers on the peninsula is not up for negotiation. The two Democrats want their amendment added to the Senate's version of the National Defense Authorization Act, which sets military policy for the next fiscal year. The House's version already has a similar provision which would limit funds that can be used to reduce troop levels in South Korea, and the Senate includes a sense of the Senate provision stipulating that significant removal of the United States military forces from the Korean peninsula is a non-negotiable item as it relates to North Korea's denuclearization. So in other words, what it seems like they're trying to do is tie Donald Trump's hands here. So if he wants to strike up a peace deal with Kim Jong-un, they're trying to stop him from doing anything that would allow for significant reduction of troops currently stationed in South Korea. Wow. Now, I do want to read Tammy Duckworth's tweets because I do think that they are telling. She states, U.S. troops are not bargaining chips to be offered up in any offhanded manner. The Kim regime is as dangerous today as they were 6 months ago, and they have done nothing to demonstrate that the threat they pose has lessened. Chris Murphy and I introed an amendment to prevent Donald Trump from withdrawing U.S. troops from South Korea unless it is in our national security interest and wouldn't undermine the security of our allies. Unilaterally ending our military's involvement on the Korean Peninsula would hand Kim Jong-un a significant victory and put our allies in the region at risk. So understand that this isn't a policy that she is quietly trying to produce or that she's ashamed of. She's proud of it. She's tweeting about it, and she's trying to show everyone just how anti-Trump she is by resisting him from the right. But I've got news for you, Tammy Duckworth, and really everyone who has bought into the propaganda of the United States military-industrial complex. North Korea doesn't pose a threat. Yeah, I said it. Do you want to know who does pose a threat? We do. The only reason North Korea would be crazy enough to attack one of our allies was if they thought that a threat from us was imminent. So if Kim Jong-un got wind that the United States wanted to preemptively strike North Korea, then if he thought that his destruction was inevitable, he would launch on Seoul or Japan. And even though there's been numerous provocations and they do missile tests, again, Kim Jong-un, even though he is a maniac, he's still a self-interested actor. He wouldn't do something that would jeopardize his existence. So if you care about peace, you should be advocating for the United States to tone down saber rattling. And that includes, yes, ending useless war games that just piss off Kim Jong-un for no reason whatsoever. And withdrawing all of our troops and bringing them home, that's the right strategy. So Tammy Duckworth clearly has a case of U.S. empire-itis. She can't possibly fathom that the United States would be equally as outraged as North Korea is if they had troops stationed in Mexico or were doing joint military exercises with Canada. So this has to be, what, the millionth example now of Democrats resisting Donald Trump from the right? On one hand, they push this idea that he's a maniac, but the minute he signals the desire to de-escalate in Russia or in North Korea, they attack him from the right. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either he's a maniac that shouldn't saber rattle against other countries and escalate tensions, or he's not a maniac that is fully capable of escalating tensions with hostile foreign powers, but ultimately would never make an impulsive decision with regard to foreign policy. You gotta pick one. You can't have it both ways, but that's what they're trying to do, and I want to share a tweet from journalist Walker Bragman who points out just how disgusting this really is. So in 1973, in response to the Korean and Vietnam Wars, Democrats override a presidential veto to pass the War Powers Act, limiting the president's ability to wage war. In 2018, well, in response to peace talks in Korea, Democrats try to limit the president's ability to make peace. So let me ask you this, Tammy Duckworth and Chris Murphy. Would you prefer dialogue with North Korea, or would you just rather have Donald Trump go back to threats of fire and fury so you can call him a maniac again? Which way would you rather have it? Because it seems as though you don't want Donald Trump to pursue peace. Now look, I'll reiterate what I said last week. I don't think Donald Trump is a competent negotiator at all. In fact, I think he's in over his head. I think he's a genuinely stupid human being. I think he has a low IQ, and he's clearly mentally unstable, and he's joked about wishing American citizens would treat him in the same way that North Koreans treat Kim Jong-un, and to sit up and give their attention to him when they see him. I mean, which is incredibly disturbing, because he's basically joking about wanting to be as powerful as the leader of a totalitarian country with literal concentration camps. But with all that being said, so long as he's trying to achieve peace and no longer threatens them every other week on Twitter with threats of nuclear annihilation or fire and fury, that's still an improvement, wouldn't you say? I mean, I honestly don't know what to say. They're literally trying to stop Donald Trump from de-escalating tensions with North Korea. I guess they'd prefer fire and fury again. I guess they would prefer the prospect of nuclear war with North Korea every other week as he threatens them on Twitter. I mean, how absurd do you have to be? If you think Donald Trump is a maniac, then certainly, why would you want a maniac to continue this aggressive U.S. stance towards North Korea? Wouldn't you want him to tone down the aggressive rhetoric and do things that would potentially facilitate peace? Well, the answer is no, because they're literally trying to tie his hands so he can't do things that would specifically make a peace deal possible. Unbelievable. And Tammy Duckworth loves to pretend like she's the most anti-Trump person in the world. A few months ago, what did she do? She voted to expand Donald Trump's power to unilaterally spy on American citizens. She does that, and then the next day she goes and criticizes him and calls him Cadet Bone Spurs. Well, are you anti-Trump or not? She didn't go and boast, mind you, about giving Donald Trump more spying power. She was silent about that. So, I mean, to say that I'm disappointed in her, that's obviously the case. She's someone who pretended to be a progressive, but now we know either that was all an act or she's been co-opted by the Democratic Party and establishment and the military-industrial complex. So shame on Tammy Duckworth. Shame on Chris Murphy. I'm less disappointed in him because I already knew he was a sellout. But Tammy, this is a new low for her.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.